Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of our guests and the commission members and staff to the January 22nd Speedway Redevelopment Commission meeting. This is our regular session. It's delayed by 1 week because of the holiday earlier this month. What I'd like to do right now is I'd like to introduce the commission members and staff, especially Brody Duncan, who is the newest member of the Speedway Redevelopment Commission. He was appointed by the Speedway Town Council at their meeting last month. And then to my left, Gordon Rundle, a returning commission member. Rhonda Schwartz, also returning commission member. And also the representative to the commission from the Speedway School Board, Dr. Terry Reed. Welcome, everybody. Also, we have Tim Gropp on my far right-hand side. He is our Economic Development Director for the town of Speedway. And in the audience, we have Tim Ramian, our Executive Assistant and Property Manager. Then we also have Tim Jensen, who's the principal of Jensen, or Veritas. And they have provided excellent consultation services to the commission for quite some time. And then welcome to the audience. It's good to see everybody here. We essentially do have a quorum, so I don't need to go through the formal aspect of that. So the next item on the agenda is the election of the 2018 officers of the commission. So I'd like to open it up for nominations.
At this time, I'd like to propose Tom Popchef for president, Gordon Rundle for vice president, and Rhonda Schwartz for secretary.
Thank you, Brody. Any other nominations? Hearing none, the nominations will be closed.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the slate of officers.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of the slate of officers for 2018 of the Speedway Redevelopment Commission, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? I'm sorry, the audience can't vote, but good try, David.
Should note we also have one vacancy currently.
And I do want to note, as Mr. Gropp has mentioned, the town council has not appointed a full commission. We have one position that probably will be appointed at some point during the first calendar quarter of this year. So the motion passes, and congratulations to Gordon and Rhonda, and thank you, Brody, for your support. The next item we have on our agenda is the public comment. Anyone in the audience would like to come to the lectern and make some public comments? David, I've already heard your public comment, and I appreciate your round of support.
Thank you.
So hearing none, let's move to the approval of the claims and expenses for the last month. And what I'd like to do is turn this over to Tim so he can provide us with a little explanation of some of the expenses that we'll be considering for approval.
Just a few notes looking through there on the actual claims, the ones that are not tied to any contract or anything. We were able to negotiate the lease term for parking at the bunch. Thank you, Tom, for doing that for us. And the first half of that payment is on there, so we pay it semi-annually. So that is what the estate of Betty Bunch expense is parking spots for overflow for the Wilcox building. Why we ever put a Wilcox and Wilshaw building right next to each other, I mess that up all the time. So. And then on the sheet that is our everyday expenses, just a few notes. The very first one, ADT Security Services, that we had thought that was disconnected a while ago, and there was a service miscommunication. So we have canceled that, and we will get, you'll see on our next claim docket that we'll have a refund of a majority of that. Okay. That was actually over at 2828 North High School Road. And so that, obviously, we won't need that anymore. So we've made sure that's canceled and fixed all the paperwork issues there. Okay. The American Structure Point 16th and Lyndhurst project, the second one, that is, there'll be one last bill to close out those intersection improvements. So that's the 20% match that we're on the hook for. And that is for the add-on that we did to the project, which was improvements to fixing the left turn lane going eastbound.
Okay.
So that was not part of the original scope. We added that in while they were out there, and that's our 20% match. Just a quick note on the Citizens Energy Group, as we've demoed buildings, and again, as we lose 2828 North High School Road in the next couple months, those will go down. Globe Asphalt for 1426 coming out of TIF. The NDOT project, the B&O Trail, 160,000. So we were pre-committed to the 20% match for the B&O Trail extension. This is the construction portion of that. So the total match that the SRC committed to was about $364,000. So we still have about $200,000 that are going to come out of there. And, we could possibly argue that that's a TIF expense, but we didn't want to stretch that. So that's actually coming out of our operating fund. So that's a pretty big hit to our operating there. But that is the 20% match for the B&O extension. Same thing, IPL, you'll see that continue to dwindle. The second one and the last one are tied to 1330 Main. The last one was the closeout. We no longer have that. That has been transferred over to Bell Helmets, so that one won't be on there anymore. The back end raised demolition, those two come out of TIF. Those were for the demolition of 1426 and the moving of dirt off the Gilman Street parcel. So those we both took out of TIF. You'll see our Speedway Chamber of Commerce commitment for this year is also being paid. And the last one, the U.S. Bank. So in December, in June and December, we get our draws from the auditor's office for TIF funds. And then in July and January, the TIF bond payments are due. So those are our TIF bond payments for January. So it's basically money in, money outs.
Is there any other further questions concerning the claims for the most recent period? Tim, thank you very much. I did want to comment that, the demolition work, particularly on Main Street to provide the additional parking, turned out exceptionally well. And thank you for your efforts and your staff's efforts in getting that accomplished in time. So if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the claims and expenses.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the expenses as is.
We have a second.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to accept the claims. If there's no further discussion, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the claims, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Meeting minutes there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I overlooked the meeting minutes from our regular session, December 18th. Apologize for not getting to that agenda item. I believe it has been distributed earlier to all the commission members, and I don't believe there were any corrections or additions. Thank you, Dr. Reed, for your editorial review of those documents. They're always very thorough and concise. So hearing no further questions or comments, we will accept those by consent. Thank you, Tim. Tim, you're on next with our project updates, initially starting off with the Wilshaw Project. And then we also have Mr. Jensen here, who can also provide any comments regarding the status of the Wilshaw Project as well.
I'm
Tim?
actually going to let Mr. Jensen speak on the Wilshaw Project first.
Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome, Mr. Duncan, and welcome everybody to the new year. A lot of exciting stuff happening in Speedway. Tim asked me to come tonight and give you a brief update on the Wilshaw Project, which is, if you've not been out on site, it is actually underway. So a couple of the key facts there is that they have received all of their permits for the multifamily portion, which is the two buildings on the south end of the property. So if you recall, last fall, the developers approached us and asked if they could split the project from a phasing standpoint to the 2 multifamily buildings, and then the hotel will follow probably this spring, is what they're projecting. So the commission allowed them to do that at the time. And it took us a while, and then, of course, everything had a deep freeze there, a little bit over the holidays, so they lost a little bit of time with that, but they have secured all their permits now, both through the town and through the city of Indianapolis, as well as the state, through the environmental issues, and they are starting to put the rammed aggregate piers in this week sometime, is what you'll see out there. And so they're going to probably start the water line in just a couple weeks, as soon as they have a few weeks of 30 and up weather, where they can get in the ground a little bit easier. But they have gone ahead and done some structural modifications on the multifamily building to allow them to go ahead and bridge over the existing water line until they're able to make that comprehensive switch over. Regarding the hotel, I did talk to the developer of the hotel today, which is Loftus Robinson Group, and they're proceeding along their path. They've told us from the beginning it'll probably be March or April groundbreaking on the hotel. You will see some activity on the hotel pad if anybody drives by, because that's under Scannell's contract, is to actually put the pad in for that, so that while they're doing all the earthwork on site, they'll be doing that. And then the developer is finalizing some financing pieces that are part of that. And then at that time, too, there'll be you guys will have back in front of you, which you've already approved, though, is the bond. And so that whole bond closing process will happen sometime this spring as well, which is kind of the incentive piece behind what these developers are doing. So, again, this is a Hilton product. We're excited about it. We think it'll be a great asset to that corner for sure, as well as these other 80-plus units that are there on the corner. I think it's going to be exciting times here for Speedway very soon. So, any questions?
No, it just amazes me that they get started so early in the morning. Since I do reside on 15th Street, I get a good opportunity to keep an eye on the project. But that's great. I know that we lost a little bit of time due to the weather conditions. Any of the other commission members have any questions of Mr. Jensen?
To address that, Mr. President, there are, I think you guys have some ordinances that rule the working hours within the town of Speedway, because we talked about them with the developer early on. So if that becomes an issue for you or anybody else who's a nearby resident, let us know, and we'll
They
make
don't
sure.
recover retirement hours.
No, I was going to say, I have my own hours now.
Okay.
So
Let us know if that becomes an issue. We'd be happy to
Oh, we
address
certainly
that.
will. And I promise it will not be. Thank you, Tim.
Yep.
Just a couple last notes on there. So they're finishing up the IPL, Barry, putting not the lines, but the spots they're going to put the lines in through our parking lot, and road closures and lane restrictions starting January 29th through February 9th as they go across 16th Street. So they will actually be closing 16th Street, and then February, let me make sure I'm getting this right.
I think it's the 9th, isn't it?
So Robinson Trench, I'll just read it so I don't mess this up.
Okay.
Robinson Trenching, a contractor for IPL, will have street closures on 16th at Main from January 29th through February 2nd. And then from February 5th through February 9th, they will be crossing Main Street at 16th, but they will use traffic control officers. So 16th will actually be closed and we'll detour. But then when they go across Main, we'll keep Main open and we'll just use traffic control. And then in the evenings, they'll have the steel plates over there. We didn't want to have to shut down Main Street. So they're finishing up our lot right now, and then they'll work their way towards the property. So this has been sent out to Main Street businesses as a notice, and I believe it also was a town blast as well for these closures.
Certainly was. We received that. Thank you, Tim. Speedway Marketplace.
So everything's going along fine out there, construction-wise. I did notice in the IBJ real estate that they did announce a couple of the tenants for the strip center, so I've gotten a lot of questions on that. So I think since it's IBJ official, I can say that. The AT&T retail store and ATI Physical Therapy will be two of the tenants in the new strip center. So everything else seems to be going all right out there. Still looking for that final user for the last location, so.
Brixmor?
Again, another one of those snuck up on us. So the last business has finally put a sign out. So Ross Dress for Less, Five Below, and Burlington are the three tenants in the new spots. They're working on facades as we speak, so things seem to be progressing nicely, and hopefully sometime this year we'll have some grand openings over there.
Great, thank you. 2500 North High School Road.
There's been a lot of activity out there. You might see some people out doing some surveying or some other activities. So we kicked off our due diligence period on that. A lot of conversations going on the backside. We had a kickoff meeting, and then we've also had an engineering meeting, sitting down with the engineering consultants. So looking at all the reports we have on file, getting new surveys done, everything's being put into GIS, and starting to have conversations as well with some of the existing business owners, some of the prospects that have shown interest, and also just gathering information on everything we can out there. So starting to put all that together. Hopefully in the next month or so, we'll have some brainstorming meetings to start putting together the site plan and uses and desires for what our vision for that property is. Because that'll be the next, understanding what we have is one part, and then understanding where we want to go is the second, and then putting all the numbers behind that is where we're trying to get to.
Great,
So,
thank you, Tim, and I think that's an excellent approach that last year's commission had approved. And finally, the Gilman Street property.
yeah, so it's cleaned off, cleaned up, and we are getting ready. I passed out tonight a draft of the RFP. If we had approved moving forward on that, we let the 60-day option that was on the property has expired, so we're ready to put that RFP out. So if you please just take a look, and if you have any last minute corrections for us, please let us know. But if not, we will get that published as soon as possible. We'd like to actually get any responses back by our next meeting so we can keep moving forward on that. So we're not in a big hurry, but there is some interest out there, and there's some people waiting to submit for the RFPs that have been waiting for a while. So, the initial trigger to the option was somebody putting an offer on the land, which, so there have been people waiting for a while that are interested. So we want to make sure we give everyone an opportunity. We'll make sure we get it out to the right publications and put it as many places as we can to make sure it gets exposure.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any further questions of Tim about any of the updates on our ongoing projects? Great, thank you, Tim. The next item on our agenda is resolutions. We have no resolutions for today's meeting, so we'll move on to our new business agenda item. And the Speedway Redevelopment Commission has the pleasure of making appointments to the Speedway Arts Advisory Council and the Speedway Housing Advisory Council. Melissa Hedge has expressed interest, and she currently serves on the Arts Council. And I would love to entertain a motion to nominate Melissa Hedge for another term on the Advisory Council, the Arts Advisory Council.
Sure. I move that we reappoint Melissa Hedge to the Arts Advisory Council.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to reappoint Melissa Hedge to the Speedway Arts Advisory Council. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 4-0. We have, I believe, a new appointee to the Speedway Housing Advisory Council, and that is Terry Snyder. Terry is a real estate broker here locally, has been in the industry for approximately 30 years. I am very familiar with her. I'm sure, Rhonda, you
I
know
am.
Terry and may have had some transactions
Sure.
with her in the past. So, knowing of that interest and also the skill set that she would bring, I'll entertain a motion to nominate Terry to the Speedway Housing Advisory Council.
I move that we appoint Terry Snyder to the Housing Advisory Council.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Brody, you're really deferring, aren't you? As a new member of the commission.
Just gonna let them have
learning
it.
as I go here.
That's
so,
great. Well, we have a motion and a second, so let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 4-0.
What was her last name?
That is Snyder, Terry Snyder.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure which firm she's affiliated with.
I think she's on her own right now.
She's on her own.
Yeah.
She's an independent real estate broker. and again, has been in the real estate business for quite some time. So I think that's going to bring, a very good skill set to the Housing Advisory Council. We have no old business at the present time, and I think, Tim, you've already essentially given us a good report. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I have a few additional notes I'd just like to inform the SRC of.
Okay.
So the Indianapolis Power and Light property on Main Street, we are really close to finalizing that. It's been through all their board of directors. So by the end of the month, we should close on it. We shouldn't need anybody. Bob Clutter will be able to represent us at closing and sign off on the settlement agreement. So we're close. As soon as we're done with that purchase, we're going to swap that and the portion of the B&O, the finished B&O trail that we have, which is adjacent to Sarah Fisher Karting. We will swap that over to the town of Speedway. So we no longer have control of that, so they can then use it in their park inventory.
Great. And Bob is the attorney, I believe, out of Lebanon that's representing us in that
Yes.
transaction.
He's our current town attorney,
Okay,
so
Great.
also represents the SRC.
okay.
The website is almost done. You will be getting a link soon. That's the kind of trial website. We'll want you to click through and scrutinize, and as we expect of Terry, make sure that we have everything properly spelled out on the website so we don't have any embarrassing mistakes. But yeah, we're getting close. We had another long meeting. We're just tweaking a few last things functionality-wise that we didn't like. And it's been a long journey, but we're happy with the result, and it's a night and day different than what's out there right now. Should be more functional. It's more dynamic, so it'll update several things automatically. We have a lot of links to our Speedway cable channel on there, so that'll have some dynamic features, and we're able to update it internally so we can real time keep things modern and have announcements that are current. And there's also a nice section where we'll have all our resolutions, minutes, agendas, everything posted so the public can find everything really easy.
That's great. I'm really excited about the formal launch of that, and look forward to that soft launch. Anything else, Tim?
Yeah, we're working with IMS. We've been working diligently. We understand that Holman Memorial Way needs some updates, so we're trying to come up with a long-term strategy for Holman Way. IMS is actually engaged with us to help with that. They realize the benefit on their side as well. So we're actively working on that. The first step to that is we're going to change out all the hardware. The current red rods that are on there tend to break a lot and lose pieces, and they're just getting a little bit old. So we're actually going to be swapping out the hardware with more wind-resistant hardware that's going to go up on the entire thing. We're going to split the cost with IMS, and then we're going to split the cost with the town, so our portion. So we'll have a little bit of expense coming up, but it'll give us all new hardware the entire length of Holman Way. That's kind of step one. We understand. We're just trying to wrap our head around what the entire expense of Holman Way is and then figure out what the strategy is. So we understand there's painting needs, there's tuck pointing needs, there's electrical needs, and there's the ongoing banners. So we're trying to work out what banners are going where throughout the entire year and have a schedule every year that gets approved, and just trying to get it more, right now it's kind of fix what's broken when it comes up, and hopefully this will be a nice succinct plan. The town's going to manage it, and then we're going to work with our partners to make sure it goes smooth and that it looks nice. But
Right. I think it'd be a nice addition to that.
it's going to be a little cost. I mean, there's a lot of poles there, so.
Okay.
2828 High School Road is moving along as we plan. They're continuing. They're getting all their plans ready to go to Indianapolis as well as the BZA. So we're going to help them try and get through that process as best as we can for 2828 High School Road, so they can get moving, and then we can kind of close that out and get that off our books and get 20 new jobs and new investment, $400,000+ investment in a community. So we're getting closer. They're doing everything the right way, and they've engaged architects and engineers what they need to get the plans done. So.
Would you remind the audience the company that is acquired and will be moving in?
Yeah, it's Fatheads, which is a sunglasses company that's currently located a little further south on 16th Street, east on 16th Street. That's looking to move into the existing building, which is a nice thing. We get to save what's there, add on to that as well a little bit, and gut the inside and make it a new, take a building that's been off the tax rolls for a while and put it on to as a functional building that brings new jobs and investment to the community. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, great.
So, Zelman demo was today. You probably saw that go down. That was as planned. You're going to see a pause here while we switch over the company that we lease that currently to purchase. So there's still some environmental cleanup they're going to be doing now that the building's down. They're required to take out a tank and some other hydraulic lift items that were underneath the slab they couldn't get to. So they're going to continue that over the next 2 weeks. Then they'll finish the demo. We're going to leave that currently as a gravel lot until we work on what we're going to do there for, it's intended to be overflow parking for the Wilshaw Project. So we got a little bit of time. Probably not going to get any formalized lot done by May, so we'll probably park it as a gravel lot for this May. And then the TIF amendment goes to the council tonight. So after that, we'll send out all the tax impact statements. It was very minimal tax. This is not a huge amendment. This is more of a cleanup amendment. So the tax impact statement was minimal. And then it will come back to the SRC for public hearing and confirmatory resolution at our next meeting, assuming everything goes fine tonight at the council.
Let's certainly hope so. Anything else, Tim?
That's it.
Great. Any of the commission members have anything to add, or would like to make any statements before we adjourn?
Good.
Well, I personally would, on behalf of the commission and me personally, like to thank Vince Noblet and Bill Jones for their over 10 years of service on the commission. And they had served admirably. Their tireless efforts are very much responsible for what we have seen in the development and the redevelopment of not just Main Street, but also the Zone 2 area of the Speedway Redevelopment Initiative. I learned quite a bit in working with them for a little bit over a year, and I know that they both have pledged their continuing support in any way possible. So I just want to publicly thank Vince and Bill for their service to the town, their service to the commission, and they've just been, a great addition to our community. So with that being said, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Brody. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
The meeting has adjourned at 5:57.